Good morning, this is One News. It has been 5 months since the devastating eruption of Mt Taranaki, which claimed the lives of over 1,000 people and left much of Taranaki in ruins. Recovery efforts remain ongoing, with the New Zealand government estimating total reconstruction costs in the hundreds of billions of dollars. Foreign aid has played a crucial role, with assistance from Australia, Canada, and the United States helping to fund rebuilding efforts and provide humanitarian relief. In New Plymouth, teams continue working to restore infrastructure, clear debris, and support displaced residents. The city's power grid has been partially restored, but many homes and businesses remain uninhabitable due to widespread ashfall and structural damage. Temporary housing has been set up across the region, accommodating thousands who lost their homes in the disaster. Despite the progress, officials warn that full recovery could take years, especially in areas closer to the eruption site. Economic challenges have also emerged as businesses struggle to reopen, and agriculture in the region has been severely affected. The government has introduced financial relief packages, but concerns remain over long-term economic stability in Taranaki. International support has provided crucial supplies, including food, medical aid, and heavy equipment for clearing ash and rebuilding roads. As New Zealand continues its largest recovery effort in modern history, scientists remain closely monitoring other volcanic activity across the North Island.
Alright, I'm looking at the latest data from the Ngauruhoe region. There was a small event at 4:30 am. Preliminary reading puts it at a 2.3 magnitude, shallow depth, around 5 kilometers. It's not large, but it's a bit out of the ordinary. Has anyone checked for any associated activity, tremors, harmonic signals?
Yeah, I'm running through the surrounding stations now. Nothing sustained, but there was a slight increase in microseismicity over the last week. Nothing above background levels yet, but this is the first clear spike. It looks like it was most noticeable in Waiuru and Rangipo. Do we have any local reports?
Not much so far. No emergency calls or damage reports, which makes sense given the magnitude and the time it hit. I'll reach out to regional contacts in Ohakune and Turangi, see if anyone felt anything. But at this stage, we are not looking at anything requiring a public advisory.
Understood. Let's keep this flagged for review. We'll note it in the daily update, but no alerts yet. If this is an isolated event, it's likely just routine tectonic activity. If we see a pattern of increasing intensity, we may need to reassess.
I'll cross-check with the volcanic monitoring team just in case. No changes in gas emissions or lake temperatures at Ruapehu or Ngauruhoe as of yesterday. But I'll request fresh telemetry data to be sure. If anything shifts, we'll escalate accordingly.
Sounds good. Keep us posted if there are any further developments. I'll check in with local authorities later in the morning.
Alright, let's mark this and move on to the next overnight data review.
A 4.1 magnitude earthquake struck near Tongariro early this morning, shaking communities across the central North Island. The quake, which hit at 12:17 p.m., caused minor structural damage in Ngauruhoe and Ruapehu, with reports of fallen chimneys, cracked roads, and power outages in some areas. Residents described the shaking as sudden and intense, with some reporting objects falling from shelves and windows shattering in older buildings. Emergency services have been assessing the damage throughout the day, with civil defense warning of possible aftershocks in the coming hours. Several sections of State Highway 1 near Ngauruhoe suffered minor cracking, but the road remains open with caution. Power has since been restored to most affected homes, but some residents in remote areas may experience delays. Authorities are urging people to stay prepared and report any structural damage to local councils as assessments continue.
Seismic activity under Ruapehu has increased by 40% in the last 5 days. We are seeing persistent low-frequency tremors and minor steam bursts near the crater lake.
How significant are these tremors compared to past activity? Are we certain this isn't just standard geothermal fluctuations?
No, this pattern is different. The magma intrusion depth has risen from 6 kilometers to just under 3 kilometers in the last 48 hours. That's not normal.
If this continues, how long until a major event? If current trends hold, days, maybe a week. But we can't give a precise time frame yet.
Then what's our threshold? Do we move to alert level 2, or wait for stronger indicators?
Look, we hesitated before Taranaki, and we lost over 1,000 people. We need to act now, alert level 2, at minimum.
Agreed. We start preparations, issue public advisories, and coordinate evacuation plans. No second guessing this time.
Right. Let's draft the alert notice and notify local councils. Ruapehu is now at alert level 2.
Magma movement just spiked. Depth is now 1.5 kilometers. That's a massive jump in under an hour. Temperature sensors at Crater Lake are reading 49 degrees Celsius and climbing. That's a 6-degree increase since dawn. Carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide levels are also rising fast. Pressure buildup looks unstable. Could this be a major intrusion? Or are we looking at just another surge? If it slows down, maybe, but this is eerily similar to Taranaki's lead-up. The thermal imaging just updated. Heat anomalies are spreading toward northwest vents. We need to escalate this. This rate of change isn't normal. Agreed. We notify civil defense now. This could be hours, not days. I'll send in a warning. If this trend continues, we may have a full-scale eruption incoming. Then let's not waste time. We are sounding the alarm.
Kia te pato, kia matera. Attention, this is a civil defense emergency broadcast for Whakapapa and surrounding areas. At 9:30 a.m. on the 13th of November, 2027, the National Emergency Management Agency has issued an immediate evacuation order for all persons within a 10-kilometer radius of Mt Ruapehu due to heightened volcanic activity. This message is being transmitted across all local radio frequencies, emergency sirens, and loudspeakers throughout all ski fields around Mt Ruapehu and the Ngauruhoe Volcanic Center. All visitors, workers, and residents within this area must evacuate immediately. This is a mandated order under the Civil Defense Act. Mt Ruapehu is now at alert level 3, indicating a high likelihood of eruption within the next few hours. Seismic data from GNS. Science confirms a rapid rise in magma beneath the crater, alongside extreme temperature increases at Ngauruhoe with Ngauruhoe, the crater lake. Scientists estimate that a major eruption may occur within the next 3 hours, possibly sooner. Volcanic tremors have intensified, and the risk of pyroclastic flows, ashfall, and lahars is now considered severe. All individuals at Whakapupa ski field must leave via designated evacuation routes immediately. Shuttle buses are departing every 5 minutes from the main car park, transporting evacuees to National Park Village Ngauruhoe. Private vehicles should exit via Bruce Road toward State Highway 47, do not delay, and do not stop to collect belongings. The ski field is now officially closed until further notice, with access strictly prohibited. Beyond 10 a.m. Civil Defense has activated emergency accommodation for evacuees in Turangi, Ngauruhoe, and Tormerinu. Marae in the area, including Ngati Hikero ki Tongariro Marae, are welcoming those in need of shelter and assistance. The 10-kilometer evacuation threshold is a strict exclusion zone. Anyone remaining beyond this point is placing their life at extreme risk. Once the roads are closed, no further access will be permitted until authorities deem the area safe. This is a life-threatening situation. Pyroclastic flows can reach speeds of over 800 kilometers per hour, obliterating everything in their path. Heavy ashfall is expected, with accumulations potentially disrupting visibility, air travel, and infrastructure across the central North Island. If you are outside, cover your mouth and nose with a cloth or mask, and protect your eyes from airborne ash. Do not attempt to return to the ski field for any reason. Your safety is our priority. This concludes the Civil Defense Emergency broadcast. Kia kata, kia horu, stay strong, stay safe. Further updates will be issued via official channels. If you require assistance, dial 111 immediately. Evacuate now.
Attention, this is an emergency broadcast from Civil Defense, GEP, and the Ngauruhoe Regional Council. At 9:42 a.m. on the 13th of November, 2027, Mt Ruapehu erupted violently, triggering a state of emergency across the entire region. This message is being transmitted across all radio frequencies and emergency networks. Civil Defense is now ordering the immediate evacuation of all areas within a 30-kilometer radius of Mt Ruapehu. The eruption has released an explosive energy equivalent to several megatons of TNT, producing an ash plume currently reaching 18 kilometers into the atmosphere. Experts predict that within the next few hours, the ash cloud may exceed 25 kilometers, spreading hazardous ashfall across the central North Island. Pyroclastic flows are traveling at speeds exceeding 250 kilometers per hour, covering vast distances with superheated gas and debris. The volume of ejected material already exceeds 100 million cubic meters, with further eruptions expected in the coming hours. At the same time as the eruption, a violent 7.5 magnitude earthquake has struck the region, further devastating the area. Strong shaking was reported from Tet to Ngauruhoe, with landslides cutting off major evacuation routes on State Highway 47 and 49. Several bridges, including those near Rapido and Rangipa, have collapsed, making some areas inaccessible. Expect road blockages, damaged infrastructure, and further aftershocks. Whakapupa ski field and Deepening village have been completely destroyed within 1 minute of the eruption. The pyroclastic flow is rapidly advancing beyond 10 kilometers, now endangering National Park Village and surrounding settlements. If you are within the Ngauruhoe Regional Volcanic Zone, you must evacuate immediately. Do not wait. Take only what is necessary and move towards designated safe zones. Residents must evacuate with essential supplies, including food, water, warm clothing, and medical kits. Protect yourself from falling ash by wearing masks, scarves, or wet cloths over your mouth and nose. Safe zones have been established in Turin, Ngauruhoe, and Taranaki, with civil defense shelters set up at local mayors and community centers. Follow official evacuation routes. Do not attempt to return home. The New Zealand Defence Force is mobilising from Ngauruhoe military camp to assist in evacuations. Helicopters, light armoured vehicles, and transport trucks are being deployed to extract civilians from cut-off areas. The Royal New Zealand Air Force is conducting emergency airlifts, and additional support is being requested from international partners. Expect military personnel and emergency responders to be coordinating evacuations. This concludes the regional emergency broadcast. Kia TPATO, Kia Omara, be vigilant, be safe. Further updates will follow via radio, mobile alerts, and emergency services.
We bring you breaking news from the Central Plateau this morning, where we are receiving updates from Mt Ruapehu in which pyroclastic flows are now racing down the mountain at speeds exceeding 850 kilometers per hour. Within just 4 minutes, the flows reached Desert Road, and in 10 minutes, they have completely engulfed Ngauruhoe National Park. So far, at least 28 people have been confirmed dead, including 14 hikers caught on the Ngauruhoe Alpine Crossing when the eruption began. Entire structures have been wiped out, including the historic Chateau Ngauruhoe Hotel, which was completely buried under volcanic debris. Several campgrounds, along with huts and lodges in the park, have been destroyed, leaving no time for those in the immediate area to escape. Authorities say this is one of the most extreme eruptions in New Zealand's modern history since the eruption of Mt Taranaki several months ago, and that the situation is still unfolding.
This is an official civil defense emergency broadcast for the Taupo District, issued in coordination with the Taupo District Council and the National Emergency Management Agency. This alert is in response to a large lahar originating from Mt Ruapehu, now affecting Lake Taupo. This broadcast is being transmitted on all frequencies and emergency channels. If you are receiving this message, take immediate action and follow all instructions carefully. At 1:15 p.m. local time, the lahar from Ruapehu has entered Lake Taupo via the Tongariro River, carrying volcanic debris, ash, and hazardous materials. Water contamination has spread across the southern shores, with further dispersal expected. Residents are strongly advised not to drink tap water until further notice. Boiling water will not remove all volcanic contaminants. A debris hazard advisory is in effect for the southern and eastern shores of Lake Taupo. Along with that, a localized tsunami warning has also been issued, with waves expected to rise up to 2 meters along the areas of Ngauruhoe, Hatip, and Motuopa. The lahar is carrying trees, boulders, and structural debris, posing extreme danger to watercraft. Avoid all shorelines immediately. In Ngauruhoe and Waiau, conditions remain catastrophic due to pyroclastic flows and ashfall. Reports confirm vehicles are stalling due to ash clogging engines. If trapped, abandon vehicles and evacuate on foot to high ground. Do not enter floodwaters. Lahar material is toxic and extremely dangerous. For your safety, evacuate to designated shelters in Taupo, Takano, and Emery. Listen to local authorities and emergency officials for guidance. Keep masks on, stay inside if safe, and monitor emergency channels. Stay strong, help is coming.
Kia ora, listeners. You're tuned into The Breeze, bringing you updates on the developing situation across the central North Island. We are breaking from our usual programming to bring you the latest on the developing eruption of Ruapehu and its impact. The towns of Waiuru and Rangjipo have been completely obliterated by pyroclastic flows, with ash covering much of Desert Road. Visibility is near zero, and emergency services are unable to access the area. Reports indicate that Mochiku has also been engulfed, with conditions worsening across the region. Further south, the Pout Dam by Lake Rotorua collapsed during the earthquake earlier this morning, triggering a 5-meter tsunami that swept across Lake Rotorua's southern shore. Several viewpoints and access points were flooded, with reports confirming the deaths of 7 people caught near the lake. Authorities had issued early warnings days ago, but tragically, some were unable to evacuate in time. Heavy ashfall is covering touring in Ohakune, with vehicles stalling and residents struggling to escape safely. The pyroclastic flow advisory for Ohakune has been upgraded, with estimates suggesting it could reach the town in 5 to 10 minutes. Residents are urged to evacuate immediately, but thick ash is making movement nearly impossible. Lake Taupo has now turned a murky grey, as lahars have inundated the coastlines of Amori, Pukawa, Wai, and Waitahanui. A landslide near State Highway 1 caused a bus carrying 20 evacuees to plunge into the lake. Rescue teams are attempting to recover survivors, but conditions remain dangerous. Emergency responders across the North Island are on full mobilization, awaiting clearance to begin large-scale search and rescue efforts. The eruption is ongoing, and the full scale of destruction is still unfolding. Stay with The Breeze for further updates.
This is an emergency early warning broadcast issued by Civil Defence and the National Emergency Management Agency. This alert is airing on TVNZ1, TVNZ Plus Live, Radio New Zealand, and all major radio frequencies. A second volcanic eruption has now begun at Ngauruhoe, further escalating the ongoing disaster in the central North Island. At 2:02 p.m. New Zealand Daylight Time, Ngauruhoe erupted violently, sending columns of ash and gas more than 15 kilometers into the atmosphere. Pyroclastic flows have begun descending from the crater, though on a less severe scale than Mt Ruapehu's. A series of moderate earthquakes have been recorded near the Ngauruhoe volcanic zone, and ashfall is increasing rapidly. Meteorologists now predict ashfall will reach Auckland and Wellington within the next 3 hours, half the time previously estimated. The entire North Island will be under heavy ash cover by nightfall, with parts of the upper South Island expected to be impacted within 4 hours. Visibility will deteriorate rapidly, and residents are advised to remain indoors, and seal all windows and doors. Due to hazardous conditions, all airspace over the North Island has been officially closed as of 1:55 p.m. New Zealand Daylight Time. However, 6 commercial aircraft remain airborne in the region, and emergency response teams are working to coordinate safe landings. Additionally, all lakes and rivers in the Waikato and Manawatu regions have been closed due to ashfall contamination and the risk of lahars. The latest reports indicate pyroclastic flows from Mount Ngauruhoe are moving towards Taranaki and Mount Pihanga. Residents in these areas must evacuate immediately, or seek high ground, if escape is not possible. Civil Defence is working to coordinate emergency shelters and transport for affected communities. This concludes this emergency broadcast. Stay tuned to official news channels, radio stations, and Civil Defence alerts for further updates.
We bring you breaking news from the eruption in the central plateau as Mt Ngauruhoe has erupted violently, sending lava flows and pyroclastic surges racing down its slopes. The town of Taranaki has been almost entirely destroyed, with reports of homes and businesses engulfed by fire, ash, and collapsing debris. In a tragic development, a One News helicopter covering the eruption has crashed near the Tongariro River, with all 4 crew members feared dead after losing visibility in the thick ash cloud. Lava flows are moving dangerously fast, consuming everything in their path, while pyroclastic surges continue to blanket the area with searing gas and debris. Civil Defense has described the situation as a mass casualty disaster, warning that conditions remain too hazardous for immediate rescue operations.
This is a national emergency broadcast issued by the New Zealand Government and Civil Defence, airing across all regions. The Central Plateau eruptions have now intensified, with Mt Ruapehu, Mt Ngauruhoe, and Mt Tongariro all erupting simultaneously. Ash clouds have expanded to cover nearly the entire North Island, reaching as far north as Auckland and as far south as Wellington, with conditions expected to deteriorate overnight. All residents are urged to take immediate precautions as this event continues to unfold. Due to extreme ashfall, all businesses and essential services in the northern Manawatu and southern Waikato regions have now been ordered to close until further notice. The weight of ash is collapsing rooftops, and the risk of pyroclastic flows and lahars remains high in affected areas. Emergency response teams are struggling to reach certain communities, and all non-essential travel is now strictly prohibited in these zones. If you are caught in ashfall, take immediate cover inside a building or vehicle and avoid breathing in the ash. A mandatory mask advisory is now in effect for all residents across the North Island, excluding Northland until further notice. Only N95 or approved respiratory masks will provide proper protection. Cloth or surgical masks, likewise ones used during the COVID-19 pandemic, will not stop volcanic ash from entering your lungs. All major highways and roads in the Waikato and Manawatu regions are now closed until further notice, with emergency routes reserved exclusively for evacuations. Priority evacuations have been ordered for all residents within 90 kilometers of Tongariro National Park, and all airspace across the North Island remains fully restricted. Civil Defence and the New Zealand Transport Agency are working to clear transport corridors, but conditions remain extremely hazardous. Residents are advised to clear out gutters, seal all doors and windows with damp towels, and keep all livestock, pets, and machinery covered or indoors. Ashfall will contaminate water supplies, so it is critical to store clean drinking water and avoid using uncovered tanks. Keep radios and devices charged for further updates as conditions worsen. Temporary shelters have been established across the Manawatu and Waikato regions, including at Palmerston North Events Centre, Claudelands Arena in Hamilton, and Cambridge Town Hall. These facilities are fully equipped to accommodate evacuees and provide essential aid. If you require emergency transport, dial 111 or proceed to the nearest designated pickup point. This has been a national emergency broadcast from the New Zealand Government and Civil Defence. Further updates will be provided as more information becomes available. Stay indoors, stay alert, and remain prepared.
The entire North Island of New Zealand is now under heavy volcanic ashfall, with Auckland, Wellington, and most regions experiencing darkened skies and hazardous air quality. The situation has drawn comparisons to the Mt Taranaki eruption months earlier, though officials warn that this event is significantly more widespread and severe. Entire towns in the Waikato and Manawatu regions are buried under thick ash, with authorities struggling to reach isolated communities as conditions worsen. In a disturbing development, a commercial aircraft traveling from Auckland to Queenstown has vanished from radar, last detected somewhere over the west coast of Manawatu.
Authorities confirmed that this was one of the last commercial flights in the air before the call to close airspace was issued. With airspace already closed, officials are now working to determine the fate of the missing flight and its passengers amidst an already escalating disaster.
Authorities have confirmed the discovery of wreckage from an Air New Zealand A320 off the coast of Whanganui, nearly 24 hours after it disappeared. The flight, which departed Auckland for Wellington yesterday, was among the last to take off before New Zealand's airspace was fully closed due to the eruption. Investigators believe the aircraft flew directly into the volcanic ash cloud, causing catastrophic engine failure before the pilots attempted a desperate ditching into the ocean. Search and rescue teams have recovered 2 survivors from the crash site, but 48 others remain unaccounted for and are presumed dead. Officials say the wreckage suggests the aircraft broke apart upon impact with the water, making survival extremely unlikely for most on board. This disaster has raised serious concerns over the delayed closure of airspace. With aviation authorities now facing tough questions about why flights were still departing amid such extreme conditions. Families of those on board are gathering in Auckland and Wellington, awaiting further updates as rescue operations continue. Meanwhile, the ongoing eruptions from Ruapehu, Ngauruhoe, and Tongariro continue to paralyze New Zealand's transport networks, leaving many stranded. The government has reiterated warnings for all residents to stay indoors, as ashfall continues to spread across the North Island, creating one of the country's worst natural disasters in modern history.
The full impact of the Central Plateau eruptions is now becoming devastatingly clear, as volcanic ash continues to blanket much of the North Island. All air travel in and out of New Zealand has been suspended indefinitely, cutting the country off from the rest of the world. Economists are already warning that this crisis could plunge New Zealand into an economic downturn not seen since the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020. Mass evacuations are underway in Hamilton, Cambridge, Rotorua, Taupō, Palmerston North, and surrounding areas, as the weight of the ash is collapsing roofs and making roads impassable. Officials now confirm that over 100 people have died, many suffocating or trapped in vehicles and homes as the ash thickens by the hour. The Central Plateau, once a thriving region, is now being called Ground Zero, as pyroclastic flows and toxic gases have rendered it completely uninhabitable. Despite desperate efforts to mitigate the damage, the eruption is still ongoing, with no sign of stopping. Emergency services are overwhelmed, struggling to reach those still trapped in affected areas. The government is urging all residents in impacted regions to remain indoors, wear protective masks, and prepare for long-term disruptions. As the country grapples with one of its worst natural disasters in history, the likes of which not seen since Taranaki.
The eruption has ceased for now. Seismic activity has significantly dropped. Current readings show a magnitude of 4.2 tremor in the last 30 minutes.
Understood. We can now confirm that the danger from further eruption has lessened, making it safer for teams to enter.
The vent temperature has decreased to 220 degrees Celsius, a marked change from the 1000 degrees Celsius recorded earlier. We'll need to assess the stability of surrounding structures before proceeding.
Agreed, but with visibility improving, we can begin aerial surveys to map out the damage. We have a window of about 4 hours before winds shift the ashfall again.
Teams are already prepping for a ground assessment. We estimate around 30 kilometers of affected land around the eruption site.
The ash plume has settled, but it's still unsafe to be in direct proximity for extended periods. I'd advise setting up a safe periphery zone of at least 20 kilometers for personnel.
We have 10 confirmed survivor locations from initial satellite scans within the 20-kilometer radius. Rescue operations will be coordinated shortly.
I'll inform Civil Defence to initiate the evacuation of non-essential personnel. Make sure everyone is equipped with full protective gear when entering the affected zones.
Copy that. We'll deploy 2 teams to the most critical areas first. Time is of the essence.
Agreed. I'll coordinate with the team to monitor the surrounding air quality as we move in. Let's make sure it's safe before proceeding with any deeper exploration.
This is a Civil Defence All Clear announcement broadcast at 7:40 p.m. on November 16th, 2027. This message is being aired by Civil Defence through TVNZ and radio frequencies. The update covers all areas within the North Island affected by the volcanic eruption. Please tune into your local frequencies for further instructions. The volcanic eruption has significantly reduced, with less ash being emitted from Mt Ruapehu, Ngauruhoe, and Tongariro. Pyroclastic flows and lava eruptions have stopped, and no new seismic activity has been recorded for the last 12 hours. However, the volcano remains active, with the alert level still at a level 2. Emergency responders are continuing to monitor the situation closely. The area within a 40-kilometer radius of the Tongariro volcanic area, including Taranaki, Ohakune, and Waiuru, has been severely affected. Much of the land within this zone is burned, with parts of these towns completely destroyed by pyroclastic flows and surges. Waiuru, in particular, has been scorched beyond recognition, and all buildings in the immediate vicinity have been decimated. Ashfall has caused significant damage to agricultural lands in both the Waikato and Manawatu regions. Most farmlands are covered in a thick layer of ash, severely affecting crops and livestock. Experts estimate it'll take anywhere from a few days to a week for the ash clouds to dissipate, allowing for any relief or recovery efforts. Temporary shelters, emergency housing, and refugee camps have been set up across the North Island for evacuees. Those who have lost their homes are receiving compensation, and assistance is available for those affected. The eruption's immediate death toll stands at just over 1,000 confirmed fatalities, with many still missing. It remains prohibited to enter any area within a 50 to 60 kilometer radius of the Tongariro National Park. The situation is still being monitored, and Civil Defence urges all residents to stay clear of the restricted zones. This concludes the Civil Defence update. Stay tuned to your local channels for further instructions and updates.